Hi, how are you? It's deep cleaning day, which is the best day to change out this hideous base tray situation for something better. While the boys didn't mind running back and forth through a tunnel or a ladder situation that I set up, I wanted them to be able to run from one entire side of the cage to the other without pause if they wanted. I didn't have enough corrugated plastic quite big enough to make the tray in the way I had made my previous white one. There are also reasons why that wouldn't have been a good idea anyway. I also wanted my tray to be removable for deep cleaning, and the tricky part here is that a 71-inch long tray would not fit through one 36-inch Critter Nation cage with both doors open. So instead I decided to make two halves and a panel to bridge the gap underneath them, and binder clip the two together. This way I can remove any of the parts when it's time to deep clean again. First, I measured the inside of the cage in length and depth, wrote those measurements down, measured my corrugated plastic and wrote that down, added my sidewall height, and did all the math needed just like I showed how to do in my other video on making a DIY base tray. Then I began cutting out my pieces, starting with the larger piece that makes up my floor and back wall. I set these in the cage while I cut the other pieces because I was afraid if I left them on the floor that I might cut them up by accident. Then I marked and cut two short sides on the other bit of corrugated plastic. I cut those out and put them in the cage for the same reason as before. As well as the longer front sides. Lastly, making my little bridge piece, I marked the 5-inch sidewalls and made the piece to go underneath my main tray halves. And I didn't do it perfectly, so I had to trim a bit more off. And it was too big, so I had to adjust it slightly. I rescored the fold line about a 1/4 inch in, and then used tape over the original and reinforced it. I actually did this with my old tray as well, which you can see in this picture. I placed the bridge in the cage and began assembling the two tray halves, taping the short side on and then the long side. I set the first half in the cage and attached it with binder clips. Then I repeated the process with the other side, taping the short side on and then the long side. And then placing that in the cage and attached it with binder clips. My final steps were to decorate the cage and add binder spines to the edges. I had just enough to trim the majority of the edges, but I left the middle area where the binder clips are uncovered and hung chew toys there to hopefully deter chewing in that area. Though I hope there are enough other things to do that keeps everyone busy now, and my young boys are just over 7 and 8 months old at this point, so should be past the baby chewing stage. Here's the final results. If you want to see this cage tour, go to the video link in the cards and description below.